Hi guys. I'm still trying to figure out a best way to teach you and ensure that you're learning and not just copying answers from somewhere. So I'm going to try this. I'm not sure how long I'll do this, but sometimes you're going to get a video that's going to be longer. Sometimes you're going to get a short one. This one's going to be long. So we're going to go over solving two-step equations, and I'm going to get started. So what you're going to do is, for today, you're going to watch this video and then you're going to do the math space. And you can come back to this video if you need to, if you need extra help on the math space. So let's go with our review from one step. Again, it's all about doing the opposite operation. This is a plus 4x plus 4, so the opposite is subtract. So x equals 6. 10 minus 4 is 6. These cancel and get 0. That's why we do the opposite. And we have x equals 6. And we could check. Now this one, x minus 6 equals negative 15. We're doing the opposite of minus, which is add. So this is x on this side, and then negative 15 plus 6 is negative 9. All right, this is all review. This one, remember, when there's next to each other, that means it's multiplication. So we're going to do the opposite, which is divide. This becomes just x, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. X divided by 4 equals 3. Remember that the bottom number of a fraction, whenever you want to move it, you want to multiply. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. That gives us just x equals 12. Again, I'll review. So the thing to remember with this one, right, this is a two-step equation. The thing to remember with a two-step equation is that you want to do the opposite of PEMDAS. So instead of doing the groups, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, you want to do the opposite. It's confusing to think of it that way. So what I've done is I've created problems, examples of two steps. So this is 2 times x plus 5 equals 13. So if we did you always want to do your subtraction and your addition first if you have one of those. So let's take a look at this. We have 2 times x plus 5 equals 13. We're trying to get x by it. That's our goal, is to get x by itself. So we need to move this 2 and we need to move the 5. So the first thing we're going to move is this plus 5, because the opposite of plus 5 is minus 5. So then that gives us, on this side, we have 2x, and on this side, we have 8. And now we're going to divide by 2 from both sides. And then we have x equals 4. So we move the 5 first, and then we divide it. That's always, not always, but 95% of the time, that's what you're going to want to do. And you're going to want to remember that whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So we subtracted 5 from both sides, and then we divided 2, and we get 4. And this is where I said that you're going to have to start checking your answer when you do work for me. That's not math space. So we think 4 is this answer here. So we're going to replace the x with 4. And then we're going to solve it to make sure that it's correct. 2 times 4 is 8. So that would be 8 plus 5. 8 plus 5 is 13. 13 equals 13. So I know I'm right. If I get this where it's the same, then I know I'm correct with my answer. When you start doing these by hand, I want all of these steps. This is the first step. This is the second step. This is the answer, right? Because it's a two-step equation. Then I check. I also want your check. I want all of that when you start doing these by hand. So this is the first common one that you'll see with the multiplication, then addition, and equals 13. So let's do another one. This is division, minus 6 equals 4. So here, the first thing we're going to do is move this minus 6 over. Just like with one step, the opposite of subtract is add. So now we have x divided by 4 equals 10. And now, just like with one step, now that we have this division, bottom number of a fraction, we're going to multiply both sides by 4. And that gives us x equals 40. All right, 2 steps. First step, second step. So now we're going to replace the 40 for x. Yeah, I like putting parentheses in there. And then we're going to, that's a 4. Then we're going to check this. 40 divided by 4 is 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. So again, I've done it, all the work. I've checked my answer, and I have the right thing. All right, so that's the second simpler one. Now this one's a little bit different, and this is where it's tricky, and I'll go over this again in a few slides later. But when this is just one big fraction, right, this is the exception. We have to move this bottom number before we can do this, because this is the top of a fraction. So this is like its own group. So we have to get rid of the bottom number of the fraction before we can deal with the top part of the fraction. So to move this bottom number of a fraction, you have to multiply both sides by 3. That would be your first step, because we want to make this not a fraction. So that would leave us x minus 6 equals 3. Right? When it's one big fraction, you have to make it not a fraction before you can do the top part. That's the thing to remember about these, is you have to make sure if it's one big fraction, do the bottom part so you can get rid of the fraction bar first. And then here it's just plus 6. I'm going to not check it, but you will have to check it. But I'm going to go on so I can explain a couple more before this video gets too long. So this one is, you have an x over here and you have an x over here. So we have to combine like terms. So we have to combine these x's. So I'm going to move this x to the left, because I always want to keep my variable to the left. So this is a plus x. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. On this side, that gives me x equals, on this side, 10. So in this instance, it was just a one step. I just had to move the x over. 2x minus 1x is x. X equals 10. All right, let's move on to this one. Another one where we have to combine like terms. 4x plus 3x. They're on the same side, so we can just add them. 4x plus 3x is 7x. Right? I don't have to move anything across. I'm just combining like terms. Now I got to remove this 7, so I'm going to divide both sides by 7, and I get x equals 7. 49 divided by 7 is 7. All right. So here's the fraction thing again. This is the one other thing I wanted to go over, even though I just did it. But you can see the difference between this one and this one. This is just a division here. Plus 10 equals 30. So this one, we can move this plus 10 first by subtracting 10. That just gives us our fraction. Right? That just gives us our x over 10, x over 2 equals 20. Because we're removing this part. So then we multiply by 2, and we get our answer, x equals 40. But you can see that this one's different. The whole thing is a fraction. I can't move the top part of this fraction. I can't move the plus 5 first. It's not allowed. I have to move the bottom part of this fraction first. So I have to move this 2 over. I have to multiply both sides by 2, so it's not a fraction. That would give me this Now from here, I can just subtract 5. This is the hardest part for people with these 2 steps, or even when we get the multiple steps, to understanding the difference between this one and this one. The thing to remember is that if it's one giant fraction, you can't do the part of the fraction of the top part. You can't do the top first. You have to get rid of this bottom part of the fraction bar. This one is a fraction, and that's another operation, right? They're not together, but this one is just one giant fraction, one big fraction. All right, so I'm going to go over the Edpuzzle that you're going to get ready to do. This first one we've seen before. I'll do it in there again. I'm hoping everybody gets it right this time. How do you solve this equation? You know this is x minus 3, so you're going to add 3 to both sides. So add 3 to both sides. This one, again, this is just review for one step. How do you solve for x here? This is plus 12, so you subtract 12. So in math space, you would put x equals 6. This is multiplication, so you divide by 8. And you get x equals 4. This one is a division, so the opposite is multiply. So we're going to multiply by the bottom number of the fraction. So I get t equals 50. I threw in this one here because it's fractions. You're still solving it the same way. It's just fractions, so it's a little bit harder. This is x minus 3/7 equals 3 over 7. So you add 3/7 to both sides. So x would equal to 6 over 7, right? You can, if you don't know how to do this math, 3/7 plus 3/7, you can use Desmos and check your answer. All right, now we're getting to the new stuff. You're finding the value of x for this, right? 2 steps. Again, this is a fraction. Plus 1 equals -3. So I'm going to move this plus 1 over first by subtracting. So that gives me x over 10 on this side, because these cancel, equals -4. -3 minus 1 is -4. Now, how do I move the bottom number of a fraction? I multiply. That gives me x equals 10 times -4 is -40. 2 steps. All right. So on this one, if you didn't have this part and you just had this problem, remember we have to combine our x's. So I want to move this 7x over. That would be your first step if you were just solving this. I would move this plus 7x over to the other side. So I would need to subtract 7x from both sides to solve it. And that's B. So remember, when you're solving these, you want to get x by itself. There'd be no point in moving 8x over to this side, because then it's with a number. So you want to move 7x over to the left. You want to get the variable by itself. Here's another combining like terms. This is 3x minus 6x, and 3 minus 6 is -3x equals 12. Right? We're just adding, in this case, subtracting the numbers. And now we're going to divide both sides by -3. And we get x equals -4. Solve the following equation. Same thing, right? This is a little fraction. There's a fraction plus a number equals 9. So we're going to move this plus 6 over by subtracting. That gives us x over 9 equals 3. And now we're going to multiply the bottom number of a fraction. X equals 27. So 2 steps again. Number 10. Doesn't matter that this is 0, right? It's still 2 steps. We want to get x by itself, so we're going to move this 16 over by subtracting. That gives us 4x equals negative 16. Now we're going to divide by 4, and we get x equals negative 4. So again, this one and this one are different, right? This one and this one are different. This is one giant fraction. One giant fraction. So I need to move this bottom number of this fraction bar over by multiplying, because that's how we move the bottom number of a fraction over, by multiplying by 4. Both sides. So this gives me 20, right? 4 times 5 is 20. These cancel. And I just have this on this side. Now I need to move the plus 5 over by subtracting. And my final answer would be P equals 15, because 20 minus 5 is 15. This one, again, is different because I can move this minus 3 over first. It's not one giant fraction. There's a fraction then minus 3. So I got to move this plus 3 over. 8 equals y over 4. Multiply both sides by 4. Y equals 32. This happens with MathSpace where I get the same problem. But I'll do it again. I would subtract 16, so that gives me 4x equals negative 16. Divide by 4. X equals negative 4. All right. Went over one of these combining. That's actually the same one. This is the same one too. These are not. So let's do number 16. X over 8 plus 1 equals 6. I'm going to move the plus 1 first. So x over 8 equals 5, because I had to change that to a subtraction to move it over. And then I'm going to multiply by 8. X equals 40. So same thing, I'm going to move this negative 81 over. So I'm going to plus 81, add 81. So that gives me negative 9y equals 162, right? Because this is negative 9. Now I'm going to divide by negative 9, and I get y equals 18. Negative 18. See, I almost got that wrong. I almost forgot that negative. All right. So more examples of the difference. So you can see the difference. When you're doing these on the MathSpace, you're going to get these in the same order. This one, I'm going to subtract 2 first. So that gives me my fraction left equals 5. And now I'm going to multiply by that bottom number. So x equals 10. This one, the whole thing is a fraction. So I have to multiply by the bottom number first. 20 equals p plus 5. And then subtract 5. P equals 15. So again, I just have plus 2, so I can subtract 2. X over 2 equals 5. And now multiply by 2. X equals 10. I went over that towards the end a little faster than than I wanted. But the best part about having these videos is you can watch it again later. You can rewind it and watch it. Hopefully this will make sense for the 2-step. And we'll probably just practice some more for the rest of this class and for tomorrow. That's it. Get to work.